It's Katie Crysdale here from Lakeview Aquatic Consultants. Welcome back, or welcome if you are new here. Today, I'm going to be giving you a quick rundown of Starguard Elite's 2026 annual conference, which is called Camp. I'm going to be sharing why I love going to this annual conference, the sessions I attended, a lot of the takeaways. That is the basis for this video, because I know a lot of Canadians ask me, why do you go to a lifeguard conference in the US? What draws you to this conference? So this vlog is going to be taking you through why I find this experience so personally valuable. Up front, I can tell you the conference costs about $2,000 without flights. The main thing I would say is that includes everything in terms of your cruise fare, the conference session, the swag bag, all of your activities, bus to and from the cruise port terminal, which on its own taxi fare, if you've done that drive from the airport, is at least $100 each way. Your hotel the night before the conference, and having an enjoyable week with 150 other aquatic professionals. I'm not here to pitch you on going to camp, but I did want to start with the cost, because I know sometimes people have sticker shock when they see a $2,000 conference. I don't know about you, but at least in Canada, the really good conferences were running $700 to $1,000 for several days, and that doesn't include your accommodation, and that doesn't include a bunch of your meals. I keep going back to this conference because I find so much personal and professional value. The price is very fair. I flew in a few days before. If you followed me on social media, you know that flying to Florida is not my favorite thing. It takes 15 to 18 hours, but I love this conference enough that I do this year after year. And I've already got it on my calendar for 2027. We embarked Explorer the Seas on Monday, February 2nd, 2026. Camp has a shuttle bus that brings everybody to the port. That gave me plenty of time to explore the ship, get some lunch, do my safety briefing, and then 4:30 was our first event. The team has all of the participants broken up into homerooms that are led by a staff member. That includes a group WhatsApp chat and other opportunities to get to know people within the 150 people at the conference. One of the great things about the conference is that you have tons and tons of opportunity to meet people. They are very intentional about creating activities, opportunities to network. You're going to run into people at the bars, at the restaurants, on the pool deck, in the hallways, in the conference room. But those homeroom groups are a really great opportunity if you come to camp completely solo. Maybe you're an introvert, maybe you don't know anyone. It's a little bit harder to come out of your shell, or you're new to cruising, you don't know what to expect. We had our welcome remarks from Wes, we had our homeroom meetings, and then we've had the rest of the first day free until dinner. Starguard has a whole corner of the dining room for the conference. This is definitely one of my favorite parts. Every night at 7:30, we have a dining room seating time, and you're not set with your table. So typically on a cruise ship, you have an assigned table in the dining room, an assigned dining time, and you don't deviate from that. But because of the size of our group booking, over 150 people, we have our own dedicated corner of the dining room, and we're able to mix it up every day and sit with different people for dinner. Now, the dining room, we only attend for dinner during camp because we have shorter lunches, and most people go to the buffet, or they go to Cafe Promenade and get a sandwich, or Toronto's and get a pizza, because our lunch breaks are only about an hour. Breakfast is do it yourself because everybody is at their own pace. Some people, like myself, I'm sleeping a bit later, having a quick breakfast before rolling into conference at 9 a.m., whereas other people are getting up and going to the gym at 6 a.m. I did go to the dining room dinner at 7:30. I really wanted to catch up with some people who had come into camp I hadn't seen. Everybody gets a swag bag. The swag bag this year was chef's kiss, very, very high quality items. Usually the Starguard team picks out high quality items, but these are things I love and will definitely use. Still have my sweatshirt from last year, but the stuff this year, I'm actually really excited to receive. I got a really, really high quality made in the USA backpack with a nice laptop sleeve and pockets in an aquamarine blue. We got a polo shirt, a long sleeve kind of rash guard style cover up that I will definitely use. We got a folio with a notepad for taking notes, a pen, a challenge coin, magnet for the door, stickers. What else did we get? Lanyard. There was tons of other opportunities for free swag, both prizes from draws I don't participate in because I don't really want more free stuff. And the sponsors themselves had tons of giveaways. One thing I did receive later in the conference is I was a victim for a lifeguard scenario on the beach in Bimini, Bahamas. I said I would do that in trade for a piece of free equipment. I want to take you through the conference schedule because this is the number one question I get. Why do I come to this conference? I personally come to this conference because of the caliber of the sessions. Some of you have heard this from me before, but I really take issue with conferences that rely on sales reps presenting sessions for free to promote their brands or their companies. And then people like myself are paying $600, $700, $800, $900, $1,000 to attend a conference where it's the same lazy recycled session that I could get basically through a sales call or an online demo. So full credit to Starguard Elite. One of the things that is valuable about the conference is the caliber of the speakers, the caliber of the sessions. It's very clear when something is sponsored or marketed, and the rest of the time, everything is brand agnostic, which is super, super important. So let's have a look at the schedule for this week. They did give out a handy dandy calendar. On Tuesday, February 3rd, we met up at 9 a.m. and thank goodness, conference is finally permanently at 9 a.m., which I really appreciated because in the past years, there's been days that were 8:30, there were days that were 9 because they tried to flex around the port days versus the sea days. I understand a conference, we need a full day of learning. I have no problem going till 5:30, 6 o'clock. But those 8:30 starts were hard. So thank you, Starguard team, for starting us off at 9 a.m. because someone like me who doesn't set an alarm at home unless I'm teaching, I could sleep till 7:45, do a Superman in the bathroom, and then get up to breakfast by 8:30 and get down to the conference room by 9. Each morning we had an icebreaker. Tuesday was John Roche from East Brunswick, New Jersey. He did an excellent icebreaker. So another opportunity to meet people away from the area you were seated, away from your homeroom, away from your geographic region or your dining table, what have you. And then we went right into a session entitled Industry Safety Trends and SGE Developments. That was led by Wes and Joel. That is a session we see almost every year where Wes does his executive summary of trends that he's seeing. So he touched on surf parks, AI, customer issues, like we're starting to see a lot more violence with customers, both in the aquatic workplace, amusement, recreation, as well as public service. So that was a really great kind of warm up, not necessarily heavy brain power yet. Then we had a quick break. The Royal Caribbean team does make sure that we are well equipped in the conference room down on deck 2 with coffee, beverages like juice and water throughout the day, cookies, pastries, danishes. You're never going to be hungry on a cruise ship. Right after our break, we went straight into a session from Dr. Justin Semsrott, which many of you know. Dr. Justin is a fabulous speaker, a former ocean lifeguard who is now an ER doctor at several hospitals across the United States. He is the medical director for Starguard Elite, and Dr. Seth Hawkins is the medical director for Starfish Aquatic Institute. Technically a separate company, but kind of like sister, brother, or cousin companies that share resources on certain things. Dr. Justin delivered a classic session available to SGE clients, and some of you will have heard this at other conferences. His drowning resuscitation 90-minute overview. I heard this 4 years ago at my first camp, and it still rings true. You can't hear it too many times. There's videos, discussion of research and resuscitation, just a great foundational session. And he is so easy to listen to, so engaging. One of the questions I believe I asked in that session was how to initiate conversations with local agencies, including HR departments or medical agencies locally who are resistant to adopting change. And he gave me this golden nugget I'm going to use this year, which is, as you know. So if you have a situation where your information might be more progressive or more innovative than the person you're interacting with, his whole thing was say, as you know, because the person who's receiving that information, who might be in a position of authority or leadership who makes the decision, they're not going to admit they don't know. But by using the terminology, as you know, you're bringing them along with what you want them to do, managing up, so to speak, in a way that is perhaps harder for them to refute without overtly doing so. So we had that session from Dr. Justin. Then we had a quick stretch break. Stretch breaks are super important on cruises because even as a frequent cruiser, the movement, even right now as I'm recording, I can feel the ship moving. I can hear the hangars rattling. That movement, if you're not accustomed to it and watching a PowerPoint, can be really, really hard on your brain and make people nauseous. 10-minute break, get some fresh air, make sure you have some juice, take your Dramamine. Then we had medical director updates from Dr. Seth Hawkins. Dr. Seth was new to me last year in 2025. It was the first time I met him. He is also an ER doctor, but he's now the medical director for a regional emergency services, I believe in North Carolina. His background is in wilderness first aid, also an ER doctor, and he's been a physician for about 10 years longer than Dr. Justin. Dr. Seth is such a nice person. You'll see him around the ship. He will answer all of your questions. He and I share books back and forth that we're reading that we might enjoy. He is so progressive in his thinking. He delivered a session last year about backboarding, spinal boarding, cervical collars, changes, recommendations, just so thoughtful, well-researched. I don't remember the specifics of his updates other than discussion of back blows in the US for complete choking response. There was some updates on infant CPR, moving from 2 fingers to thumbs. Those are advisories specifically to the Starguard Elite program in the US, as well as the American Heart Association. So don't necessarily take that information as relevant for you if you're listening to this video. A very, very good session in terms of program updates, scientific updates, medical research updates. Then we went to lunch. I believe we had 75 minutes for lunch to be reasonable of the fact people need to get up to the buffet, get their food, go back to their room. I charged my laptop. After lunch, we came back and we did have an Ask the Medical Director Q&A. This is with questions that have come in over the year from Starguard Elite clients, from pools, from lifeguards, from actual real life scenarios that have occurred. We did this. What should we have done instead? So that was wonderful. The next part of the day, essentially from roughly 2:30 to 5:15, we had 3 45-minute rotations. I went to 2 of the 3 rotations. The first one I went to was the medical legal considerations. This was Dr. Justin basically taking us through the video footage, which I can't really talk about because it was privileged in his expert witness work for ongoing litigation regarding a workplace drowning fatality of a fish and game officer. Dr. Justin basically took us through his process, which I'm not going to restate because it was privileged and private, regarding how he does expert witness work, what he's looking for in terms of evaluating the lifeguards, because this was all body cam footage, CCTV footage, what he's doing in terms of providing feedback to the legal team, whether he's working for the defense or the prosecution, although it's typically in a civil case. So that was wonderful. I actually sat through that session twice. I enjoyed it so much. I'm a bit rogue. Sorry, guys. Sometimes I do my own thing. I didn't follow my homeroom. Then I went to the first aid activity session, Kelly Martinez and Ron Torbert. Most of you will know Kelly Martinez. We have at least one video from her that she did during the pool aid webinars. She's very well known for her foam activities, making lifeguard training more realistic. She had buckets of shaving cream, dyed pink like blood. She had buckets of rice. She had Velcro patches and matching games. Kelly is such a gem. Kelly Martinez from Phoenix, Arizona. If you're not aware of her, Lifeguards Love YouTube is her channel, and she's very well known on the speaker circuit. Unfortunately, I did accidentally miss the last session of the day. George Panton from Water Safety Products talking about his experience performing CPR in a real life scenario. I went to get some fresh air and misunderstood. I thought there was just 3 rotations and we were done for the day. So I did miss George's session. I heard great feedback from people at dinner. So that was basically day 2. I met up with friends for drinks at the tavern. There was some people I knew through social media, hadn't met in person. Also caught up with the ladies from Life Floor who were here as a sponsor. Went to dinner at 7:30, and I want to say dinner that night ended a bit early. Dinner in the dining room can easily go an hour to 2 hours because the staff let you sit and chat. It's not as fast as the buffet, but I'm pretty sure that night dinner ended early and I walked around the ship. I might have done a few things and went to bed. Wednesday, February 4th, we were scheduled to be in Bimini in the Bahamas. We started off the day at 9 a.m. Brianna Smith is from the Royal Caribbean Aquatic Safety Team. She took us through an icebreaker. In our little groups, we discussed different topics, and then she pulled people out of the crowd to share. I really, really liked how she did that. And although the exact questions I don't remember, the way she had it set up with groups around the room and then showcasing answers was really, really interesting for a larger group icebreaker. Then we had a session called Red is an Armor, and this was with Drasko Bogdanovic, and he is an oceanfront lifeguard from California, and he has a lifeguard project in terms of collecting photos and memories and experiences. He's also written a book. He also does in-service. I was vaguely familiar with him from social media, but didn't get a chance to talk to him much this week. Really, really enjoyed his session, kind of a lot of different ideas that he pulled together in terms of lifeguarding. And I also really appreciate when a lifeguard with a surf or oceanfront background comes to our pool sessions. Like, this is a pool lifeguard conference primarily, and was really respectful and open to dialogue and learning our perspective as pool lifeguards. That was a wonderful session to kick off the day. We had a break and then a panel discussion. So there were a lot more panel discussions this year, which I actually really liked. Sometimes panels are lazy at conferences. These were very well curated questions or very well managed by the SGE team. The first panel discussion was integrating EMS care and response. So we had Pete DeQuincy from California, Kelly Martinez from Phoenix, Arizona, Paul Snowblin from Peel Region, Canadian outside of Toronto. He is associated with Peel Region EMS, the drone program, a lot of different things. That was moderated by Christopher Drummond from SGE, talking about how you can collaborate your pool teams, lifeguards, aquatic staff working better with EMS. Very practical advice. This was very timely after Dr. Justin's session from Monday with regards to the fish and game drowning fatality, because a big point was the roles and responsibilities of the lifeguards at the site relative to the fish and game officers who have police authority who were at the site. Who's in charge? I, as a civilian, would generally defer to the police or an authority like that, but who is actually in charge in a pool or who has span of control is a super important point of conversation that more pools need to have with their rentals or leadership when there is collaboration. Then we had a short bio break. There was also a client spotlight on Tuesday. This was a 10-minute PowerPoint where somebody would stand up and talk about their facility, their equipment, their lifeguards. So, for example, one that comes to mind was Celebration Key, which is Carnival Cruise Line's private island destination down here in the Bahamas. I have not been. I am booked to go in January of 2027. Super excited. The project looks amazing. This was basically one of the water safety directors from Celebration Key talking about the size of the island, the size of the staff, the size of the pool, some of the challenges that they have. Very nerdy for those of us who are into that sort of thing. Then we had a panel discussion, physical safety in aquatic facilities. I participated in that session. It was me, Preston Watts from Safe Slide Restoration, Lindsay Fetzer and Jennifer Post from Life Floor, Justin LaFond from, forgive me, a water park. I don't remember what water park. We were talking about pool operations, water quality, risk management, water slides, safety flooring. I talked primarily about if you don't have good water quality, you have nothing to offer your clients. Doesn't matter best food and beverage, best cabanas, best water slide, best entertainment. If you don't have good water quality, if people cannot see at the bottom of your pools, if people are leaving with infections, you have problems. From there, we went to lunch. Lunch was a little bit later that day. We were then meeting on the pier at 2:30 for the camp photo. We were docked in Bimini, Bahamas. This was a change from the original itinerary that had us going to Labadee in Haiti, which is Royal Caribbean's private destination. Labadee's been closed for 6 or 12 months due to political unrest. There was some product demonstrations on the beach in Bimini. So that is where I received the piece of equipment for being a victim during the demonstration, her West Tube. This is very clearly a sponsor and a product that was promoted. I really do appreciate that Starguard is very clear when something is a sponsor or when something is promoted, and they're not pushy. So there are display tables. You can talk to the sales reps if you want to, but nobody's going to harass you and nobody is forcing you to listen to a paid solicitation. I went to the demo with Paul Snoblin as well as other people I'd been hanging out with, tried out the tube as a victim. As I posted on Instagram, I was impressed with the caliber of the product that was used to carry me as a distressed non-swimmer to shore. I didn't have extensive use with it, so I can't speak to other applications and how it would hold up over time. But just my first response to being lifted during the rescue is that I really, really like the product. Bimini is a tiny, tiny island in the Bahamas. There is basically Resorts World, and the port area is very, very small. There was one restaurant, one ice cream shop. I found it hard to find a magnet. This was Explorer of the Sea's inaugural stop in Bimini. The pier, I believe, was built in Bimini by either Virgin Voyages or Carnival. It's not historically a Royal Caribbean port, but because Labadee is closed, they redirect the ships to all different locations. All of this to say, I was happy to have a couple of hours in Bimini. The beach was beautiful. The water was fairly warm for February. There's not much to do. You can rent a golf cart and you can drive around the island or go swimming at a different beach. But we only had about 2.5 hours, and I was very content to walk around, go in the water, get back on the ship, have a little rest. When I got back on the ship, I sat with some friends up by the pool bar, the lime and coconut. I also got a milkshake from Johnny Rockets with one of my diamond vouchers, and we were just hanging out on the pool deck for sail away. Enjoyed the sunset and chatting with other aquatic professionals and went to bed. And then the next day was Thursday, February 5th. This was another sea day. So we were out on the ocean. There was an icebreaker by Angela. I'm sorry, I don't remember where she's from or her background, but I do remember it was this or that. Would you prefer a ski vacation or a beach vacation? Do you think it's acceptable to put pineapple on pizza or not? Do you prefer chocolate or vanilla? Then there was a panel discussion called Career Development and Building Your Bench, like building your bench of mentors and people who can help you grow your career. This was definitely a heavy lift. We had Mike Frisha and James Harhey, who are both the founders of Starguard Elite about 15 years ago. Pete DeQuincy was there talking about his career, and Joel Riker, the vice president of Starguard Elite, oversees big elements of their client portfolio, such as the cruise lines and some really high profile private water parks and destinations. That was very much geared towards younger aquatic professionals, young managers, middle managers coming up in their career, making that jump maybe from a head guard to a shift supervisor to a permanent manager. But really, really good advice in terms of lessons learned and how to prioritize professional development and never stop learning in aquatics or business management. We had a quick break, and then there was an aquatic safety equipment and technology session. I love this session. This is all the new stuff that is out. Last year, the Steadfast Safety Tube was featured. You've probably seen the video I did with the founders of that product. This year, there were products like the Rest Tube. So that was basically product sharing, information sharing. We had a quick break. We had another client spotlight. I believe this one was Lowe's Resorts, maybe in Florida. There were some program updates regarding SGE materials, resources, and then we went to lunch about 12:30. We came back from lunch by 1:30. It was a shorter lunch that day to fit in more learning because we had less time the day before in Bimini. And then we had an in-service with Pete DeQuincy. So that is both for us to be in the in-service and also to have ideas to take away to our aquatic teams. Then there were 4 sessions and you rotated through. The first session was new obstructed airway protocols. So I did some work during that session because I didn't want to confuse my brain. First aid protocols, SGE in the US versus Canada as a Life Saving Society first aid instructor. So I sat that one out. Paul Snoblin, Christopher Drummond, and Bruce Wright went through some other equipment trials. I think they had the Big Easy rebreather. They had a new mannequin, like CPR mannequin that was stackable. They had some other products. I saw them, I tried them. They just didn't like land with me, so not good or bad. And then Leah and Kelsey from SGE did an excellent session on social media for aquatic operations, the do's and don'ts. If you're watching this video, you probably follow me on social media. I've been active on Facebook and Instagram for 8-9 years for the business and longer for myself personally as an older millennial. I think it's super important when we talk about aquatics that we provide value on social media and it's not just about doing silly TikTok dances. Leah and Kelsey, who manage the SGE account and who see a lot of what's happening in aquatics on social media, had some really excellent points to bear, I think, for the average aquatic professional who wants to, quote, go viral with a TikTok video, but doesn't necessarily realize the consequences about how the aquatic facility or the team is then perceived by the public when we do jump onto some of these trends. I thought that was a really valuable session. People may not have realized they needed that session, but it was a session that almost everybody I know needs for their aquatic team or the social media team at an aquatic facility. And then I went to the last rotation, which was Zones of Surveillance from Nick and Tyler from SGE. They were talking about, very traditional activity. Here's a pool. Where do you put the zones? How many guards do you need? Even though I'm not a Starguard Elite lifeguard or an instructor or trainer, I'm able to filter out good information from another program and internalize it in a way that is valuable to me as a lifeguard in general. It's not going to change how I teach national lifeguard scanning or zones in the national lifeguard course in Alberta. However, it is information I can put in my pocket about how another program does certain things. It's always valuable to know what else is out there. One of the things that drives me crazy on social media in general is this fear mongering that anything that is outside of a program is dangerous or damaging. Some of you know I've shared these troll comments on Instagram stories where people have feedback about something that I try or do or show or say, and they're saying, well, that's not in the program, or that's not in the document, or that's not how we do it. I'm not intentionally breaking the rules, but if there is not anything specific, we can do something to bridge a gap if there is no specific requirement or policy. I really strongly feel that innovation is at the heart of aquatics. As soon as you stop innovating, as soon as you start to say, this is how we've always done it, we can't change that, that is the downfall of your aquatic career, whether you know it or not. You're not evolving. So that was it for Thursday, which was the penultimate day, Thursday, February 5th. We had homeroom closing, we had our dinner, and then we also had a couple of evening socials that I popped in on. Every night there were games, opportunities to meet up at a certain place. The last day, Friday, February 6th, we were scheduled to go to Coco Cay. Spoiler alert, we did not make it to Coco Cay. It was far too windy to dock at the pier, so we spent the day at sea. So I was not particularly heartbroken. I've been to Coco Cay many times, but I did feel bad for the people for whom this was their first cruise. I love going to conferences, but I'm the type to hit a conference hard and go to all the sessions, do all the activities, meet all the people, send all of the emails, take all the phone calls, and I was pretty exhausted. So Friday to have a shorter day was A-okay by me. We started with an icebreaker in the morning. Dr. Seth gave a closing session of about an hour. He talked more about medical stuff, procedural stuff, innovations. That was excellent. Then we had a closing session with Drosco called What It Means to Be a Lifeguard, also talking about the horrible shooting in Australia, the man who shot Jewish people celebrating Shabbat on the beach. And he talked about this one lifeguard who ran barefoot down the street with a trauma bag to try and help out. And he also talked about Ben Did Go, the lifeguard who drowned a number of years ago on a call on the surf. Just kind of like the way my brain works, lots of different little topics that he pulled together in a session. We had a bio break, and then we had a client spotlight. It was a water park. I don't remember which water park. I met a lot of people this week. I talked to a lot of different facilities, and I had a lot on the go. Then we had a session about applying a lot of the knowledge we learned in the conference. We had the award ceremony. We had a video made by the conference photographer, and we finished the morning session around 1 o'clock. We were meant to be at Coco Cay, which then would have involved touring Coco Cay, going to Thrills Water Park, and some free time. But because we didn't dock, there was nowhere we docked. I went to lunch from 1 to 2. And then there was a lot of networking around the ships. I met up with some people at lunch, and then we went to the Flow Rider at 2:30, where a bunch of people who liked doing the Flow Rider were on the surf simulator on the back of the ship. I think I stayed there till 3:30, and then I went and did some other things until there was a cocktail hour, and Gallagher Insurance was paying for cocktails from 5 to 6. This was at what on some ships is called the Viking Crown, the round kind of UFO saucer space on the stack. I think on this ship it's called like the Izzy Bar. Everyone was basically there from 5 to 6, networking, chatting, and then it broke up a little bit after the free drinks stopped. Some people went down to the pool bar. Some people went back to their rooms to start packing. I wasn't worried about packing because we did the back-to-back, but I did go to the dining room for dinner at 7:30 and had really good conversations. At some point this week, we also had a surf park session. So I don't know where that is on my schedule, but we did have a 20-minute surf park session from the guys in Virginia Beach. So that is basically camp this week. From Monday, February 2nd, we embarked on Explorer of the Seas. Disembarkation was on Saturday, February 7th, but there's not really much to say there because you get up and you get off the ship at 7:30, 8 a.m. Starguard does have buses that carry campers either back to the hotel that was included at the start of the week or to the airport for their flights. Your flights are not included, alcoholic drinks are not included, Wi-Fi is not included, but basically everything else about camp is covered. I really enjoy the experience, and hopefully you've learned a little bit more about camp, the annual conference, from this video. Next year, camp is going to be 1 day shorter because it is going to be on a larger cruise ship. It's going to be on Royal Caribbean's Utopia of the Seas. Absolutely spectacular Oasis class cruise ship. I was on it in April of 2025 with my aunt. It is a big ship and it's a new ship. So big new ships mean they're more expensive. And so it is going to be 4 nights instead of 5 nights. And then it's going to be longer conference session days. I am already booked for that. It is going to be January 25th to 29th, 2027 out of Port Canaveral. Registration will usually go up for Starguard in June, but I have it on my personal calendar. It's something I'm definitely looking forward to, both in terms of I love the conference, I love the opportunity to meet people, had some truly wonderful conversations, just such a wonderful, wonderful week. So that is my recap or vlog of the conference this year. Let me know if you have any questions, things I didn't cover, things that you're wondering, or information that you would find helpful. Starguard doesn't pay me to make this video. I just like to promote things that I enjoy doing and things that provide me as an aquatic professional value, both in terms of filling up my bucket, professionally developing who I am, and allowing me the opportunity to connect back to my lifeguard people. That was definitely a question that came up several times from people who know me more from the pool operations side of things. Why are you here? You're not a Starguard Elite client. You're not a Starguard Elite lifeguard or a lifeguard instructor. But I do really appreciate the opportunity to connect back with people who truly value making pools safer, water safety and drowning prevention for all, and not just focusing on the bottom dollar, which a lot of my clients do because they don't necessarily believe in water safety and drowning prevention. So that's it. That's all. Thanks so much for being here. I will catch you in the next video. Bye for now.